What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hardwood Convos podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. I'm Brock Bierman alongside, as always, Dawson Livingston and Hunter Rose. It's March, boys, and I know that we're more of an NBA podcast, but I always love a good March Madness. Love the month of March for just the sport of college basketball or just basketball in general, because not only do you have, obviously, all of the hype and the excitement from the college basketball world, but the NBA is kind of in that back half and that final stretch towards the playoffs, because I think really right like shortly after, at least after the March Madness tournament is officially over, the NBA playoffs are like a couple weeks from then, if not right after, if I'm correct. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it's a great month and a lot of basketball to be talked about. It's been a while since we've been on here. Busy schedules as usual around this time, which sucks, being that this is a prime time to be talking about some NBA basketball. But how you guys feeling?
Doing great, dude. It's an awesome time of the year. Like you said, NCAA tournaments around the corner. We're in full swing for the NBA. The World Baseball Classic, which I'm not a huge baseball guy, has been awesome for the first few games. So that's been fun to watch. NFL free agency's going on. Like so much stuff in sports is happening right now, which makes it really entertaining. But no, I'm doing great.
You ready for the UFL season?
Of course.
Cause law, baby. Hunter, how are we doing?
Doing all right, just working away. Doc Rivers has sucked away my love for the game, but that's okay because I don't actually remember if I have my camera mirrored or not. But go Cats, go Cats!
Yeah, Panthers.
Win the
First
Missouri
time
Valley.
in 10 years.
That's what I like to see. So that's at least exciting. But yeah, kind of like Brock said, definitely the kind of one of the top months of the year for basketball. So. Especially, I mean, like you said, we're an NBA podcast, and so I think especially during the month of March, we've kind of had some unfortunate injuries as of late to some college basketball guys that are definitely some nice lottery favorites. But nonetheless, March is always a fun time, especially for any NBA fans out there that aren't huge college basketball guys or watchers or anything. Can get a little sneak peek maybe at some future picks. So it's always an exciting time for that.
That's the fun thing about this tournament. The NCAA tournament obviously is obviously you can look at mock drafts and be like, oh, someone from a small college is projected to be in the lottery, if not a little bit higher. We'll see what it looks like. I can watch some highlights on YouTube or whatever, maybe catch a game if they ever do make it on one of the big networks. But this is the tournament where those guys that you may not be able to see all the time, not live in person, but live on TV, you actually get the opportunity to. I mean, I remember watching CJ McCollum and Lehigh just absolutely dominate their first round matchup versus Duke. Oh my gosh, how many years ago would that have been?
That's
15?
Forever ago.
And I think Duke was a 2 seed that season. And
14 years ago.
14 years. Wow.
That's crazy.
But
12.
Not often that you get to see Lehigh on national TV and future NBA All-Star CJ McCollum before he even got drafted. And so it's a fun time because there's a lot of those guys. Obviously, you have the top stars that are going to go in the top 5 that are all pretty much, I think, this year in blue blood schools. But, it's a good opportunity for some of the smaller schools, for those guys who either it's their senior year or they know that they are a few steps away from making that next jump to the NBA. And it'll give them an opportunity to really showcase that. I mean, I'm not saying that Iowa State has a bona fide lottery pick or anything this year, but they have a bunch of seniors this year that could make a name for themselves to at least get an opportunity this summer in the summer league. Cause that's really what a lot of these players are probably doing. I'm talking more about the 4-year, 5th-year seniors that know that this is it for them college-wise, that this is their last opportunity to really showcase their skills to hopefully get one, either drafted or 2 signed to a summer league team, because we all know the summer league is a big deal, or at least it has been in years past when in terms of finding potential talent that you could sign to a two-way contract, maybe put them in the G League for a couple years, whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, countless people have benefited from good runs in this tournament, and we won't be having a Selection Sunday podcast. I know we will probably do some graphics on social media to show our picks for the Final Four as a group. Also, I think next year we will have a dedicated show towards college basketball for sure, potentially college football and college basketball. So that is in the works, potentially a return of one of the original hosts of one of our shows here on the 515 Podcast Network. So make sure to stay tuned for news on that. But let's get back into this with the NBA, as that's the main focus here with this show. And I know it's been a while, so a lot of things have happened. I know we were talking about things to talk about for this episode, and we threw out the idea of talking about the expansion rumors, which I think we might push to either an off season or an episode where we don't have as much to talk about, because, the NBA, sometimes there are weeks where it's like we can struggle to find things to talk about. But I think to start out, the biggest headline right now in the NBA as we're recording here on March 9th probably is, and this is not me trying to be biased, is the return of Jayson Tatum from his Achilles tear. And more specifically, probably the impressive play that the Celtics have had adding him back into the lineup, because there could be whenever you add a player like that back into your lineup, one, you're adding another star, which means someone is going to be losing some touches, but also you're adding him into a team where Jaylen Brown has led the way, probably going to be one of the better players this season, first team All NBA potential for sure. And so, that always could be a issue potentially, but it seemed like the Celtics, and more specifically Jayson Tatum, didn't lose really a step, and just kind of dominated the last two games on Friday against the Mavericks, and then yesterday, since we're recording on Monday, against the Cavaliers. They just are kind of hitting on all cylinders. They did lose Vucevic against Dallas, which is, of course, they lose someone right after they get their star player back. But what were your guys' thoughts on Tatum's return? First of all, what were your guys' thoughts of his return heading into it? Were you guys worried at all about rust, or just whether or not he might be able to tweak something again? Or were you guys like, great, this is going to be great for the game? And now, post 2 games, what are your guys' thoughts seeing what he has been able to do on the court?
Yeah, I mean, Boston's been, I would say, the surprise team in the NBA this year, just because I think we all kind of agreed before the season started, hey, this could be like a year that you could punt if you're Boston, because we didn't know at the time how soon Tatum would get back from this Achilles tear, because usually he tore that Achilles in May, middle of May. Is that something right? Usually it's a year-long recovery for that kind of injury, and he was able to get back playing good NBA basketball in less than 10 months, which is pretty remarkable. Boston's made some acquisitions. They've got Vucevic, granted now he's hurt, I think, for 3 to 4 weeks, so he might be back by the playoff run, but they'll miss that presence over the next few weeks. Jaylen Brown, like you said, Brock's been playing at an all-NBA level. I would argue he's probably going to finish top 5, maybe top 3 in the MVP voting, depending on like who ahead of him plays enough games and all that kind of stuff. But he's really helped out Boston quite a bit. Derek White stepped up in a big way. Peyton Pritchard went from a guy who I think 4 or 5 years ago was like, hey, Boston, please trade me. You're not giving me any minutes. Like, please trade me. And now he's averaging 17 points a game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. Like, he is their spark plug when they need to get a quick basket or just need someone to get an ISO ball real quick. And they've had a lot of like success from these like unsung heroes. Like Hugo Gonzalez has been playing well. Baylor Shireman's been playing really well. Shout out my boy Luca Garza. He's been playing pretty well. So they've just been getting a lot of help from a lot of different players. And it's helped them become the 2nd seed in the East. And potentially, with how Detroit's been looking the last few weeks, they could sneak up and grab that number 1 seed, which as a Cavs fan who's sitting at the 4th seed would not look great in the second round if they make it that far. But no, Boston, I would argue right now, is the favorites to come out of the East now that Tatum is back.
Yeah, kind of like what Dawson said. Like Boston just has very much superseded expectations. And I'll also kind of put my bias aside for a second, but I'll also incorporate a little bit as to why Boston this year has pissed me off so much. Okay, because as a Bucks fan, I have to sit back and watch Doc Rivers ruin my team. But you look at a team like Boston, where their best player has been gone the whole season, right? Obviously, they still have Jaylen Brown.
I was gonna say, former Finals MVP. Is Jayson Tatum really the best player?
Yeah, thanks, Brock. Thanks for pointing that out. But like on paper, outside of that, I mean, sure, Derek White, has definitely played above expectations since coming to Boston. Did not have the expectation of being the player he is, even up to this point. Everybody else on that roster, though, is kind of like, okay, this look like a pretty mid team potentially. But when you have a great coach, and I'll go on record and say that Joe Mazzulla is a great coach.
Can you repeat that one more time?
It really just like puts everything together for them, where it's like they've been able to supersede those expectations because they have somebody at the helm that's been able to lead them so effectively and show that, like, there's for a little bit there's a very loud, I would say, fan minority of like coaches don't matter and stuff like that. And that was from a while ago, and a lot of that probably also even was from a way long time ago and has kind of gone away, I would say, in the past few years or so. But definitely like this, I feel like is really like the nail in the coffin of that. Like that coaching really, really, really in the NBA does matter. And so the fact now that Tatum's back and Boston was sitting at that second seed, that makes things very intimidating for any Eastern Conference team that was hoping like this could be the year that like we break through, and so I think, it really puts a very large damper on a lot of those Eastern Conference expectations for a lot of teams, unfortunately. And so I think I am curious to see what I actually don't know if Detroit and Boston play again for the rest of the year. I know Detroit has had at least a couple of injuries, if I remember right. Most notably the they don't play again.
No.
Okay. So
I will say though, Detroit did sweep the series.
Beforehand, and that makes sense because they've been playing so well all season. But yeah, obviously they're dealing with an injury, most notably to Asar Thompson, if I remember right, and still waiting on him to come back. And he's definitely not another potential MVP candidate, Cade Cunningham. But still is especially for a team that's so defensive heavy, I would say, definitely hurts to not have him. And so we'll be curious to see then, since obviously they don't play for the rest of the season, maybe we'll see it Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Who knows? But that could be interesting. So, but yeah, I feel like right now, Boston now at this point is we've kind of seen probably the top two teams. Maybe the Knicks will do something. Maybe I feel like the Knicks always might do something though. So who knows? But I feel like those are probably like the clear cut top two right now, especially with Tatum being back.
Yeah. And Boston does have 2 straight games this week of tough tests. They are on the road at San Antonio and Oklahoma City this week. So that will be a true test of kind of just to get a real pulse on where they're at right now. Because the 2 teams that they played, Cleveland's middle of the pack, the Eastern Conference, but like the Eastern Conference is the Eastern Conference. I still think anyone truly could come out of the conference that makes the playoffs, not the play-in, the playoffs. So that 1 through 6 seed, I think really anyone has a real shot if you really look at it. Dallas on the other end, Dallas isn't doing anything. And I mean, at one point, that game was actually pretty close in the first half between Boston and Dallas. So we'll see what Boston will be able to do. And you talked about Joe Mazzulla and his coaching job, and also just everybody kind of stepping up this year. And man, Jaylen Brown, like even me as a Celtics fan, like I kind of like owe a little bit of an apology towards him because like I was kind of hesitant this season. I mean, I've been on record saying like finding a way to get Cameron Boozer this offseason well before the season even started would be my priority goal for Boston. And they, one, are nowhere near going to be able to just draft him off of the lottery. But two, I don't even think they need to worry about him because apparently they've been able to use the talent that they have while on paper, you, like Hunter said, you can look at this roster and be like, outside of Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, it's like kind of not mid for all of them. Like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard are great, but like everybody else, the supporting cast isn't necessarily world beaters. So it's impressive to see what they've been able to do. And we're gonna review our preseason picks for awards later on, and maybe there's a discussion with a couple players or a couple awards involving Boston that maybe we need to consider given what they've been able to do this season. As of right now, though, based off of what you have seen, and I know it's kind of an overreaction because it's been 2 games, and one of the games was against a team that's competing for a top pick in the draft this season. Do you think that this Boston team is, in fact, going to capture that 1 seed?
I don't think so. And it's not going to be on Boston's fault. It's just we have this every single year where one young team is just pedal to the metal in the regular season, and by the time they get to the playoffs, they just run out of gas. Feels like Detroit right now. I know they've lost 4 in a row as we're recording, but it just feels like Detroit's going to do everything in their power to get that 1 seed. I honestly, we saw this with the Cavs last year. The Cavs tried way harder than a lot of teams the regular season. They won 64 games or whatever, and it quite literally amounted to nothing, to a sweep of a terrible Miami Heat team last year in the first round, and utterly annihilated in 5 games against the Indiana Pacers. And honestly, the 2 seed doesn't look bad right now because me personally, if I was Boston, the team I don't want to play at all would probably be the Cavs. Maybe that's just because I'm biased, but the Cavs like have players that they can match up against Tatum and Brown a little bit.
And they have height.
Exactly. They have Jared Allen, they have Mobley. Whereas if you stay at the 2 seed, your first round matchup as of now would be Miami. I like Boston's chances a lot in that matchup. And then your second round would either be the Magic, who don't know how to score points. Their offense is still, it's improved from last year, but it's still one of like the bottom 10 offenses in the NBA.
Confusing.
Oh, and the Knicks are the roller coaster team of the NBA because they look unbeatable sometimes. It's like, oh my God, Cat and Jalen Brunson have figured it out. And sometimes it's like, what are we doing out there? They just look super inconsistent. So honestly, if I'm Boston, I would prefer to be that 2 seed and and take your chances against potentially the Knicks or the Magic on the Heat versus having to go to the other side of the bracket, which right now looks like Detroit, Cleveland, Toronto. Even Toronto poses a weird matchup because they have a lot of athletic wings that they could throw at Tatum and Brown that could cause a little issues. I'm not saying Toronto could beat them in a 7-game series, but it could certainly make it uncomfortable. But no, I think Boston right now, it would not be the worst thing in the world if they just stayed at the 2 seed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think home court advantage definitely comes into play. So that's why I'm a little nervous or a little hesitant to want to play New York in that second round. But also, you'd almost rather play New York in that second round, though, because of that, having to play at Madison rather than conference finals, because you know that could even be 10 times worse in terms of an environment for them. But Hunter, where do you kind of see the Celtics stock in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I think so. I pulled up the remaining strength of schedule at least. Boston currently is the 3rd hardest remaining schedule. So obviously, Brock pointed out they play next 2 games against the Thunder and Spurs. They actually do have to play the Thunder again before the season's over in these last 18 games, and also have to go against the Knicks once, the Timberwolves once, the Suns once, and then the Raptors.
It's almost like they were
once.
planning on Jayson Tatum being back around this time.
Kind of wild. But when it's only 2.5 games. It's not like an insurmountable gap or anything by any means. But when you do look at Detroit, they are currently sitting at 24th, so 6th easiest schedule. They do also have to play the Thunder and the Timberwolves a couple times, but then aside that's the Lakers, Raptors a couple times, the Magic, and the 76ers a couple times. And so that is going to be hard. And like Dawson pointed out, Detroit being on their skid, having some potential injury issues, that does at least create an opening for it, and doesn't make it impossible. But I think, like Brock, you pointed out, I think these next 2 games especially will probably be, honestly, I would say like the clearest indication. I don't know if Boston has a super easy chance to take it or not. And so, and like Dawson pointed out too, would not be the end of the world if they, only end up as the 2 seed, right? That's still the 2 seed, and even the 3 seed, like anywhere in there, perfectly fine.
The fact that we're even talking about Boston being a top 3 seed right now is, I get that they are still good without Jayson Tatum, but like the fact that I did not expect where they're at right now, even pre his debut on Friday against Dallas. Like, this has been one of the more impressive runs for a team, just because, I mean, Jaylen Brown's been leading the way, almost averaging 29 points a game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He's been able to just really step up, and that's what a lot of people, not just Celtics fans, just everybody was worried about, because him and Tatum work well together when they're on the court together. We just hadn't seen a bunch of situations where Jaylen Brown specifically has been able to step up when JT hasn't been on the court. But this year, he by far has proven that he is worth it, and has really stepped up this season, and without a doubt will be an all-NBA first teamer, I'm pretty sure, especially given the current state of NBA awards and recognitions with the 65 game rule. For those that don't know, you have to play 65 games to be eligible for, I think, every season award recognition, both awards as well as all NBA, all defensive teams, all rookie team selections. And I will admit, I think all 3 of us agreed that at the time when this rule was brought into play, it was a great idea, because we were in the middle of some of the worst load management seasons ever, and the NBA was trying to find a way to fix it, and they came up with this idea, which was brilliant at the time. However, this season has been plagued by injuries, unfortunately, like injuries that aren't load management related, and because of that, we're in a situation where a bunch of players that probably would get a nod, whether it's all NBA team, all defensive team, or even just award winners, they're not even going to sniff any postseason recognitions because of the 65 game rule. And I have like a 4-day-old Reddit thread with the list of players, but I'm pretty sure it's even outdated now of what certain players may or may not be eligible. But already disqualified, Giannis, LeBron, Steph, all those guys aren't eligible for awards, which Giannis was Hunter and myself's preseason MVP pick, so there goes that. But Jokic, I think, is 2 games away from not being eligible. Devin Booker's also 2 games away from not being eligible. Kawhi's 4 games away from not being eligible. Wemby's 4 games away, which Wemby's probably hands down going to win Defensive Player of the Year, barring injuries. So, and that's just a list of some of them. Luka's on this list. SGA's on this list. Ant's on this list. But I will mention with the Wemby situation, I think I saw something that he can actually miss more because of the NBA Cup situation. I think there's like a buffer because of this is someone that listed a note. Again, it's from Reddit, so it could be completely false. But what are your guys' thoughts on this rule? Because again, I think we all agreed that it was a great idea when it happened, when it got put into play. But again, Giannis, LeBron, Steph, Jokic, Booker, Kawhi, Wemby, Luka, SGA, Ant. Those are almost the entire top 15 in terms of faces of the NBA that may not even make it to the end of the season to be able to be eligible for these awards. So do we change it? Do we just keep going, or is this a fluke season?
I mean, usually when you have to win these huge awards, like you have to play a lot of games. But I think in this season particularly, it's just kind of odd because I made a joke before we started recording. One of the funniest tweets I've seen in a long time was this: how about how bad the 65 game rule is. It's gonna have like Norman Powell be an All NBA caliber guy, and we're gonna look back in 20 years and be like, what did Norman Powell actually do to deserve an All NBA selection versus other guys? Um, but usually, like especially for the MVP, you have to play above 60 games anyway. But it's just super unfortunate this year the way it turned out because, like you said, Jokic is on the verge of not being eligible. Wemby's on the verge of not being eligible. It's really just going to come down to like what Cade, who's got a couple games where he could spare, where he won't potentially miss. Shea's on the bubble, whether or not he. What'd you say? How many games can he miss, bro?
I think he's at 12.
He's like over halfway there.
Yeah, he's over halfway. And the rule's 18 games, right?
Well, it's 82. It's 17, isn't it?
Games.
17.
Yeah, you can miss 17 games.
You can miss 17. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so he's at 12, so he's got 5 more that he can spare.
Which with the Thunder, I think they have 17 games to go in the season anyway. So that's not like super impossible for him to play all the games. But all it takes is like one. Not saying it's going to happen, but all it takes is one fluke injury.
Yep.
And he's out. Jokic could be out. Like this could be a world and a year in the NBA where we have like a huge underdog win the MVP. And not to say that Cade Cunningham isn't like deserved of MVP because what the Pistons have done this year has been like really remarkable comparing to like, was it 2 years ago they were like the worst team in the NBA with like 15 or 16 wins?
Yeah. Back when I was buying my Pistons stock for pennies.
Yeah. Honestly, this could be like if let's say disaster scenario. This could be a year where either like Cade Cunningham wins it, Jaylen Brown could win this award. Like,
I honestly don't know what I would do if that happened.
Because the 4 guys ahead of Jaylen Brown all are on the verge, outside of Cade, I should say. But Shea can only miss 5 more. Jokic is 2 away. Wemby's a couple away. Like, it's not unheard of. Again, disaster scenario. I don't think that's going to take place.
Imagine Jaylen Brown winning league MVP.
If you want an MVP and a Finals MVP before Tatum, that would be something.
I just picture Ricky Bobby after his first race, and he's just like holding his hands up, talking on ESPN. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with my hands." Like that. Yeah. That's Jaylen Brown winning a league MVP. Which I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He definitely deserves to be in the top 5 voting, really, in terms of you look at his numbers this season. But like, this is crazy. The injury numbers this year has been rough for sure. Makes me wonder what they need to do with the 65 game rule.
I have one more thought, and I'll let Hunter have the floor because I know he's got some thoughts on this. The one underrated storyline of this, it kind of screws over the players. Like, let's say it's a player that's like on the verge of making like an All NBA selection, and that's like a huge contract incentive.
Yeah,
because this happened with Evan Mobley last year. Evan Mobley was like, I think, a couple games away from not being able to qualify for Defensive Player of the Year. He ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year, and instead of, I think, 5 years, 240, his contract, or maybe 5 years, 200, it went up to 5 years, 240. It added another $40 million on top of that because he was an All NBA selection. He was a Defensive Player of the Year winner. Like, for some of these guys, it's a matter of millions and millions of dollars that it costs, all because instead of playing in 65 games, you play in 61 games or something along the lines of that.
Now I'm thinking negatively, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are these teams going to start benching people just so they don't get selected, so they don't have to pay them that much?
The reason why the Cavs are a second apron team is because Evan Mobley won the Defensive Player of the Year last year. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and makes you really wonder, like, will some of these teams start doing that? Like, first of all, you're going to get fined for tanking or like whatever the roster rules that they have, because it would be completely obvious, I feel like, unless you have a legit injury. But Hunter, what are your thoughts? Like, is there a way to fix this rule? Is there a way to like maybe be like, okay, this is a rule, but we have exceptions to it? Or
yeah, I think before I go into that, I think like for anybody, because like Brock said, when they were kind of making this rule, we all agreed like it makes sense, right? Because on paper, you just gotta play 80% of the games. In fact, just under 80% of the games, right? It's like that makes sense. But I think if you were to like look at the situation in right now, and even though I don't like the guy, I think he's like the perfect example as like why we need to change. And it's Nikola Jokic. And so when Jokic got injured, so when we actually talked about it on the podcast when it kind of happened, but he got injured in late December, okay, last year, got injured, hyperextended his knee. It was out for quite literally a month. She's gone for 1 month of the NBA season. And in that month, he missed, I believe it was 15 games. And as Brock pointed out earlier, you can only, if you miss 18 games, that's the cutoff. So if you get hurt during the wrong point of your schedule, and like Dawson said, with just one freak injury, that puts your entire eligibility at risk. And so it's just so hit or miss on like like whether it's a nagging injury, whether it's like one single injury, what happens then to put all that at jeopardy, which is why really the biggest need to change. And so the easiest thing on paper, at least to look at it, is I think there's two different ways. One is you increase the amount of games you're allowed to miss, whether it's like, let's see, if you were to play 70% of the games in an NBA season, you would have to play
like 57
games. Yeah,
good Lord, Dawson, math wizard,
big brain.
Oh yeah.
And so one, again, you could increase that, or two, and I honestly probably the way I would lean is to make the change that has kind of been talked about honestly for a while, and shorten the NBA season. You shorten the NBA season as a whole. 82 games at this point kind of feels a little ridiculous. You kind of have, you've already had all the questions of, does the regular season even matter? All the things with players' health. And obviously, if you decrease the amount of games they have to play going into the postseason, you increase the chances of players being healthy in general for postseason play. Obviously, I think the hardest thing with all this in my mind right now is just with the expansion. Preferably, I still like it when all the teams are able to play one another. But if you increase the amount of teams that are in the league, obviously that kind of has to reflect that. But overall, like, it really shouldn't be all that unheard of to think about just decreasing the NBA season in general. And maybe that's something that we can probably focus on maybe even in the off season potentially.
Yeah.
I've thought of some ideas of what that number could be. And I'm sure there are people way smarter than me out there that probably have some sort of perfect number in general, what you could decrease it to. But to be honest, I think that's the way I would currently lean, is just looking at changing what our regular season just looks like in general, in order to not only protect the health of NBA players, but also help with getting awards to the people that should probably have it.
I agree. I don't know if I agree on the shortening the NBA season, from the aspect of, I think one of the biggest pushbacks would be, well, then what's the point of all these like records? Because like then you're throwing out all those. But also you got to put into consideration that the NBA season wasn't as long as it used to. Like it was probably not 82 games when Wilt Chamberlain was hypothetically scoring 100 points in a single game. I still have yet to see any clips of that game, by the way. But so that's the biggest argument that will probably come up with the discussion of shortening the NBA season. I still like the idea of starting the NBA season on Christmas Day and finding a way to extend it, maybe even to like July or August. I don't know how that would work logistically for numbers, and if if it actually adds a couple weeks or shrinks the season by the current setup. But like having the NBA, I feel like end either right after preseason football or right as preseason football is starting. I feel like would be such a good idea for the NBA, because during the summer, everybody talks about how the NBA season's really long. No offense, there are very few people that I know that are watching Major League Baseball in July or August when it's not like the 4th of July weekend or whatever big weekend baseball has that they do some special jersey design or promotional thing. So try to take over that time. I know that there's probably issues with that given that they are heavy investors in the WNBA, but I don't know what you can do really, because I do like the idea of 82 games. I think I'm coming to the realization that that's not, I can't just be like, well, I like it as my argument anymore. So, and again, this is kind of like probably a later down the line episode that we can talk about, but yeah, something needs to happen for sure.
The tough part about like the talk of like shortening the season though is that's going to cost everyone a bunch of money. The players' salaries will have to go down. The
Yep.
owners will make less money. So that's the tough part. That's like, yeah, the NBA PA or the Players Association could be like bring that up to the owners, like, hey, we want to shorten the season. Let's cut it by 20 games. Let's make it 62 games. But then the owners are going to come back like, okay, cool. You all lose 20% of your salary or 25% of your salary. And our players going to be on board with that? I don't think so. Our owners can be on board with that. No, because that's less in merchandise, that's less in ticket sales, and all that, like all that little stuff adds up.
Yeah.
So I find it really difficult that we'll actually get anywhere with like shortening the NBA season. But you could just spread the season out, like have no more or back to backs or anything like that. Like you said, fill those days in like the middle of July when the only thing going on is MLB, where you could potentially steal some viewership from baseball. Maybe have the finals be right around the 4th of July or something like that. Just something where these players aren't having like 5 games in 7 nights or like 7 games in 13 days. Like something that's not going to put players' health at risk. But yeah, I don't really know how feasible it is for the NBA to actually come to an agreement about shortening the season. It's just there's too much money involved anymore with all these teams. So
yeah. Are you guys in general, not necessarily logistic wise, are you guys okay with 82 games? Do you prefer a shortened season just currently, or what are your thoughts?
I'm a nostalgia person. I'm always going to be in favor of just keeping tradition. Like
Yeah.
even when the NFL added the 17th game 4 or 5 years ago, I still don't really like that. It throws off every single record. Like looking back,
Yeah.
like it looks gross. Versus the 16 games that it used to be, and now the NFL is talking about adding another game and making the season even longer, which is kind of wild at this point.
I don't need another week of watching Arizona Cardinals football. Like,
what are you talking about, dude? Like, all the moves they made today, and you're gonna say that?
oh, I can't wait to watch Gardner Minshew hand it off to Aguilar for a -2 yard gain on 4th and
Or
4.
or Kendrick Bourne, the new wide receiver for you guys? I'm just kidding.
We need a quarterback. Oh, I guess we got. I guess I don't even know. Is Jacoby Brissett? I don't know what his contract is with them. That's a different show.
Sorry for bringing
that
up, but
I get what you mean though with adding the games. That's one thing though. I'm worried about the NBA with this pretty much guaranteed expansion within the next 5 years. Is if I wonder if that's going to entice them to maybe even expand even more and then add more games. And because again, more revenue, more money, more eyes on your product. I don't know. I like, and again, further down the line, we might have to do an episode about this, but I like the idea of the finals ending last week or so of July, and it leads right into preseason football. And at the same time, it leads right into the back stretch of MLB baseball as well. because that's one of the cool things about how basketball and football works really well right now is like, or it used to before they have tried to take over every holiday event that the NBA has tried to do. But like they kind of complemented each other where basketball was just starting as the NFL was getting very hyped up. And then once the NFL season was over, the NBA was able to take full control of the face of sports. And so we'll see what happens. If we're talking about Jaylen Brown, go ahead, Dawson.
No, Hunter would know. When the Bucks won the title in 21, wasn't the finals pushed back like way later because of COVID and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was because of the season. Yeah, the season
Wasn't it
started a
like
bit later.
end of July?
It was a long time.
And why not? Let's
It's
do
really,
it.
really
Bring it
Because
back.
again, by the time if that happens, the season ends at the end of July, and then you're right into football. You're into preseason, the training camp. Like NBA, the blueprint's out there. I know you won't. Now, if you did that, like you said, Brock, you might have to push the season back to Christmas or at least like after Thanksgiving. But the blueprint's out there, NBA.
By the way, 6 years ago today, one of the most infamous, NBA moments happened, and Rudy Gobert slowly shut down the entire league. I saw that video, and it's weird how that video still gives me chills just knowing what happened like later on, like not even a week or so after that, just like the butterfly effect. Again, someone was going to get COVID at some point and the league was still going to shut down. I still feel bad for Rudy Gobert, honestly. Like he's the biggest scapegoat in NBA history in terms of like just like he doesn't deserve the hate that he gets for that. Because honestly, I don't know how old he was when he did that. I think a lot of 20-something-year-olds would have done the same exact thing if given the opportunity. And so, I just wanted to mention that was 6 years ago today.
I think he was 27 when he did that.
Oh, I guess his frontal lobe would have been fully developed by then.
Yeah, that's on him at that point.
No. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens with the 65 game rule. We'll see with these all NBA teams. We'll see what some of these awards. If we're talking Jaylen Brown as MVP, this is going to be one of the weirdest things. Like, just like again, the car drove well. I'm not sure what to do with my hands. Like that's where we're at with some of these MVP talks with players that might be the front runners, given if these injuries that have been happening keep piling up towards the back half of this season. We're already at the 45-minute mark of this episode. Are you guys wanting to dive into I haven't fully read or fully comprehended what everything is going on with these rules that Adam Silver's trying to establish with the anti-tanking stuff. Do you guys want to touch on that tonight, or is that something that you guys want to hit later on down the line? Dawson, your mic is muted.
I would not be opposed to be talking about it tonight, but I'm
if you guys want to, because I know that the biggest thing. So funny enough, we just talked about probably the biggest issue that Adam Silver had with his league a couple years ago with load management, and he established the 65 game rule. Now the biggest thing that he is trying to fix with the NBA is tanking, because tanking is pretty much is it probably the biggest it's ever been in the NBA, or at least the most prevalent it's been in a while, at least. Which, I mean, this year is a very good, or it should be a very good draft class. But I don't know if either of you have a list of the ideas that Adam Silver's come up with. Dawson, it sounds like you do. So we'll hand it off to Dawson. He'll give us a little bit of a rundown, and then we'll have just an open discussion on our thoughts on this, because tanking's an issue in the NBA right now.
Yeah, so I think the NBA owners and the Players Association met, I think, in the end of January. And they brought up some rules to potentially eliminate tanking, or at least like minimize it so it's not as obvious. Some of the concepts include like first round draft picks can only be top 4 or top 14 protected. So either it can just be like you're guaranteed in the top 4 for the pick, otherwise it goes somewhere else, or just lottery protected, which makes a lot more sense. Like all the trades that happened during the deadline, like the one that always is going to confuse me is the Zubac trade. Like if the pick is like 1 to 6, it goes to Indiana, but if it's 7 to 10, it goes to the Clip. Like it's
Yeah.
super weird, and it just makes it like not much sense for the casual NBA fan. Another one is the lottery odds will freeze at the trade deadline, so you can't just like trade all your good players away for draft picks and then just bottom out for the rest of the year. Your odds will just stay put in the middle of February. You can't pick in the top 4 in consecutive years. It looks like is one of the ideas brought up.
The Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, teams can't pick in the top 4 the year after making the conference finals. This one's really weird because there should be like one-offs. You know, as a Cavs fan, when LeBron left in 2018 and 2010, for that matter, the Cavs like nosedived because they were just not a great team around him, and they were the like worst team in the NBA. So I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that one, but it's just one of the rules brought up. Lottery odds can be determined based on your last 2 seasons of play and not just the current season, which is kind of an interesting one. The lottery also will extend to the play-in teams. So even if you win your play-in games and make the playoffs, you're technically still in the lottery. And then the odds for the lottery teams, they'll flatten out. Like it's just all 14 teams have an equal % chance of getting the first pick, second pick, yada, 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 so on and so forth. Those are just some of the ideas that they talked about, at least in January. There's some of them that are cool that could like potentially stop. Like I really like they only could be top 4 or lottery protected. Just makes more sense as the NBA fan. It's like you don't have to worry about a pick falling between like it's like the Pacers pick, like if it's 7 through 10 or 1 through 6. The odds freezing at the deadline is kind of a cool concept as well.
That might be my favorite one, personally. I kind of like that idea because I feel like at that point you really know whether or not you're going to be contending or not, and then you can't have like there won't be as many teams at least that it will be able to completely nosedive. Maybe that makes some of those teams that know that they're not going to be good enough try to tank in January because like that's still going to happen. I feel like with that rule where players will be like, or teams will be like, okay, well, we're not going to be competing this year, so we might as well just sell everything in December rather than wait until February and figure out what we can get in the trade deadline. But I do like that one.
I also think this is just a one-off year because the lottery and the picks in the top 5 this year are so good.
Yeah.
That this talk is only heightened.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can either get Cameron Boozer, you can either get AJ DeBonsta or Darren Peterson, Caleb Wilson. Like
don't get Darren Peterson.
Regardless of what you think of
Load
Darren
management.
Peterson. Yeah.
He won't be making those 65 games. Sorry.
Okay.
No. Sorry.
I get. But still, like, what was it? Was it 2 years ago the draft was terrible, where the Hawks had the first pick, and no offense to Ricochet, but teams were not tanking for Zachary Ricochet. That just wasn't happening. It's just more obvious this year because, like, there's potentially 4 NBA All-Stars that could be up at the top. So,
yeah. Hunter, what are your thoughts on the current state of, like, tanking in the NBA? And are there any of the rules that Adam Silver has proposed or has discussed with the media that you like, or are there rules that like, because I know if anyone out of us 3 pays attention to the NBA the most and maybe has the most interesting ideas for different rules and stuff, it would be you. Are there rules that aren't being talked about that maybe the NBA should consider in terms of trying to stop tanking?
I'm gonna go into this by prefacing something. I'm not saying that tanking isn't an issue. And perhaps I have less of a problem with the message and more of a problem with the messenger and who's at the helm. However, if I were asked what the biggest issue in the NBA was right now and what needs to be addressed in this offseason, I think maybe the last answer might actually be tanking. And especially when the guy talking about how tanking is an issue has a nice little FanDuel odds at the bottom of the screen when he's talking. In the meanwhile of all these scandals going on, or the big injury problems that we've had this year and players being hurt. But yeah, man, the Utah Jazz should have played Lauri Markkanen in a random day in January. Like that's what we're talking about. And all this being brought up by a team that did nothing but tank for 4 years and shut down their best player in 2022 because he rolled his ankle while they sucked as a basketball team but needed a better pick. Now tanking is a problem to them. Now tanking is a problem as soon as the pick that they have coming in might not be theirs anymore because the team that traded to them is trying to be worse so that way they get to keep their pick. All talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder here. That's really where I have an issue. Again, like nobody enjoys watching teams be purposefully bad and being like, well, we need to increase our odds at a pick, et cetera, et cetera. But, especially for teams that are just like downright bad, like teams like, because it's possible, you look at a team like the Wizards, no disrespect to the Wizards. They've been doing some really cool things. We've talked about on the podcast before. That's why I'm bringing them up, because I do think there's some cool stuff they're doing moving forward. But they've just been unlucky and just not good as a team. Mm-hmm. And so, especially when you have somebody come up and be like, yeah, this idea where teams aren't allowed to have like back-to-back years of like good picks. I'm like, you're actually an idiot. Like you're actually so dumb because you're going to make this team worse for even longer, all because you think it's a problem and it's not bringing in you more money overall as a whole league. That's really where I get most heated about this, is that it's not, again, it's not that it's not an issue. I want to hammer that point home. I do think there's a way to fix it. To be honest, I think the easiest way, and again, this probably doesn't fix necessarily the tanking, but especially in making potentially consistent things. But, if we really just want to get boring here, like the NFL's just copy and pasted the standings into a draft and called it good every year. Like we could just do that. Especially, and I think there's something that Dawson's brought up time and time before too that I like, is that especially when you look at like how the lottery works, it's like just because you're the worst team, that doesn't actually necessarily give you the best odds at the first overall pick. Your best odds are actually getting the 5th pick, which just blows.
Because the top 4 is even odds now, right?
Yeah. So if I remember right, I think the top 2 worst teams have the same % chance of getting the first pick, if I remember right. It's just that you're essentially like your picks can be in like a certain window, if I remember right. So like if you have the worst record in the league, you're kind of almost guaranteed, if I remember right, you're basically guaranteed a top 5 pick, with number 5 being your best available. While the second worst team, that window opens up to like the top 7, if I remember right.
Yeah. So like Sacramento right now is the worst record in the NBA. They can only get the 5th pick as their worst option.
Okay.
But to be fair, that's the most likely option. They have almost a 48% chance of just getting the 5th pick. Like, and then it's 12% for the 4th pick, almost 13% for the 3rd, and it just kind of escalates up to the first pick is the 4th. You get 14% chance.
This makes me want. You mentioned the NFL, and I never really even considered that. Why does the NBA do the draft or the lottery? Like,
I don't know the history of it, but it's probably like a tradition thing at this point.
My question is, and I'm not much of an NBA historian as I would like to be, but what did they do? Because I know this is like a relatively new concept for the NBA. And this hasn't been going on since like the 50s. Mm-hmm. What did they do before the draft lottery?
Yeah,
was it just literally the NFL system where it's like, hey, the worst team gets the first pick and so on and so forth?
I have no idea. It's weird to me. And the NBA needs to do something because, again, some teams just suck. Like Sacramento sucks at being able to build something. And like, I don't know. If anything, I feel like just doing the full-on standings as the draft order benefits them even more because they would have a better chance of actually getting a good pick, because it seems like they always end up falling short of getting a good pick for them.
Can I also be honest? Look at the top seeds in each conference. They all are good because they tanked at one point. I'm not saying like that's the direct reason that some of these teams are good. Oklahoma City was just flat out bad for a couple years after that one goofy bubble team with Chris Paul and SGA.
Mm-hmm.
Like they like literally sat out SGA for like half the season. Like, hey, dude, you're not playing. You're just not gonna play. And then I think either that season or the season after, they got Chet and they got Jalen Williams. Look at the Spurs. The Spurs, after they like realized the DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge era was done, they're like, you know what? We're gonna be bad. They got Victor Wembanyama, and now they're the second best team record-wise in the NBA. So like, tanking does work for some teams. It's just some of these franchises are just so incompetent.
Sacramento.
Sacramento. No offense.
I love trashing Sacramento.
Washington. Even Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn's had some okay teams in the last 15 years, but
they've had some good picks.
I was going to say, they're dumb enough to trade all their picks. Like, they would have Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum had they not made the most egregious trade in NBA history. So
I don't even want to know that butterfly effect. I don't even want to know what the Celtics roster would look like right now.
I don't know.
If Boston would have went, let's run it back one more time with KG and Paul Pierce, knowing what they did the next year in Brooklyn. That dodged a bullet on that one. As much as I make fun of Danny Ainge, he did one good thing. He did a few good things, but yeah, I'm interested to see what the NBA will be able to do, because I know they're going to do something. They can't just let what's happening right now continue. And like Hunter's kind of hinted at, maybe there's a bigger. I feel like there's a common denominator with a lot of these issues that are in the NBA right now, and it's funny because I don't think big media is ready to talk about it, but I think a lot of the NBA fans are ready to talk about it.
And like at this point, I can't even start this off by saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist, because I think I probably bring up the most conspiracies on this podcast. So if you want to call me one, you can. But again, I also think it's interesting that so we have all this talk about trying to change the tanking stuff, and if you were to look at some of the worst teams in the NBA, they're not exactly the most profitable. They're not exactly the biggest markets out there, right? All this is happening while we're having some of the dumbest CBA things I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like, well, to be honest, at this point, here, guys, I got an idea for us. Maybe instead of changing the tanking rules, we make it to where there's only 6 NBA teams, and they're located in New York City, Los Angeles, Miami. Well, I guess we can throw Boston in there. Might as well.
Yeah, we made it.
What else is what
Chicago?
else is a big city? We could do Chicago, but they kind of stink, so maybe not. And they're going to lose their NFL team too. So why would we put the NBA team there?
Yeah, that's true.
But again, like I just think it's kind of wild. All this is happening.
Actually, they would probably just end up going Las Vegas instead of Chicago.
True, yeah, that'll be the expansion.
If they did the 16 league, they would just go to Las Vegas.
Expansion by shrinking. We're going to go to Las Vegas. Let's get them, guys. Call FanDuel and make your account now.
I love the NBA's gotten in so much trouble with this, having the gambling ads show up at the worst time possible when news are coming out about their players. It's bad. That's another thing. I think we definitely need, I know we talked about doing it last year, but I think this is the year that we need to actually do an episode where we put ourselves as commissioners, and we can probably do a set of 4 rules that we think we all should address, and then also a set of rules that we might want to consider implementing and stuff like that. But yeah, the tanking is an issue, but like Hunter has kind of hinted at, and I kind of agree. maybe there's a bigger issue in the league right now that NBA fans are noticing, but no one else is really wanting to fully admit that is potentially a problem.
Hey guys, stop tanking and watch your favorite NBA teams on these 6 different accounts, all at $15.99 a month, but you're not allowed to watch the team that you live the closest to.
Shame.
And your best player is injured, and the officiating's really bad. But don't worry, you can watch all the highlights on our NBA app, brought to you by DraftKings.
Is it actually DraftKings? Oh, okay.
I'd be surprised.
Prize
at this point, who knows? At this point, Brock, who knows?
Underdog Fantasy.
No.
It's the Underdog Fantasy NBA app presented by FanDuel, highlighted by DraftKings Sportsbook. Friends with I'm running out of gambling apps.
Is this a good time to talk about our new sponsorship?
Yeah.
If you use code 515 on your DraftKings account,
Come on.
you get a free 2. I'm just kidding. That'd be.
You know,
The
NFL has thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
Yep. That's where we're gonna honestly leave that discussion just for today. We're definitely going to be talking more about that, I think, this offseason. Let's quickly, I'll have Dawson take the reins for this last segment. Dawson wanted to review some of our awards picks heading into the season and see where we're at currently in terms of our predictions.
Yeah, so up first is Hunter's. So Hunter obviously had Giannis with MVP. Giannis isn't going to qualify, it looks like. So
He wouldn't even.
No offense to
sniffing
Giannis. Yeah,
No offense to Giannis.
not with
All offense to the
where the
Bucks.
Bucker.
All offense to the Bucks.
But yeah, Giannis isn't looking great. Flag right now for Rookie of the Year is not the favorite, surprisingly. It's Con Knuppel, but I think a lot of that has to do with like team success. The Hornets are like the 8 seed right now, or the 9 seed, and the Mavericks are, like we mentioned earlier, fighting for
real quick.
top 4
Do you
pick.
guys think the Hornets are actually building something, or do you think this is going to be a flash in the pan situation?
I have a take, but I don't know if I'm ready to say it yet. The Hornets are building something, but they got to get rid of one player before I can truly buy in.
Is it
LaMelo Ball has to go.
okay? I had a feeling.
I got 2 or 3 on that list too.
No, but
LaMelo Ball, you are a Buck.
Like it happened.
Bobby
Portis, you are a Hornet.
Thank God. Finally.
Him and Grant Williams can be. Oh wait, is Grant Williams even on the Hornets anymore?
I don't think so.
I just don't know. I just know he tore his ACL, and I haven't seen him since.
He probably is.
I gotta look this up before I continue because now you've gotten me off track.
That's my.
He's on the Hornets still. So shout out Grant Williams. Obviously, I think we all had Depoy and Wemby is the runaway favorite, assuming he plays enough games. But he is the legit runaway favorite for Defensive Player of the Year right now. You just had any Eastern Conference coach.
We're not counting that. We're not counting that. That's probably gonna happen, but we're not.
To be fair, the top 3 odds right now for Coach of the Year are all in the Eastern Conference.
I count it. Half a point.
Half a point.
You did your work at least. You showed your work.
6th Man of the Year. I don't think Jordan Clarkson's listed in the top 10, so we won't give you a point for that. And then
also, that photo just terrifies me of him. I don't know where I got that from. I don't think it's AI generated. If it is, I apologize. But like, that is the most soulless looking headshot I've ever seen.
Yeah,
maybe that was from when he was in Utah, and someone put Knicks jerseys on a Knicks jersey on him or something.
Yeah. And then you had Andrew Nemhard, who is not currently listed in the top 10. But honestly,
unlucky.
Any Eastern Conference coach is that you get a half point for that one because he's not wrong.
There we go.
For mine, Luka's not even close now. Luka's like 6th in odds right now, but he's plus 17,500. So
is that dude ever gonna win MVP?
Give it a few injuries. Give it a late season push.
He's not.
You never know.
I don't know. I thought it was gonna be this year because like you said, Brock. If it's not this year, I don't know when.
Yeah,
Because there's so many good players in the NBA anymore.
we're
But
still waiting on it.
yeah, honestly, I think again we all had Cooper Flag. I think win Rookie of the Year, so I won't touch on that. We all had Wemby. Ime Udoka isn't looking great as Coach of the Year. To be fair, I thought the Rockets win like almost 60 games, and they're like the same places they were last year, which is something that we don't really ever talk about. But
The KD special.
yeah, they just kind of are just the same exact team from last year minus Fred VanVleet and just adding Kevin Durant. Just something noteworthy. My sixth man of the year didn't even play a game until the middle of January, so we're not even going to talk about that. And then I don't see Matas Buzelis in the top 10 for most improved. Although Matas has had some moments. He had a highlight, I think last week, where he dunked on someone against the Kings or something.
That was vicious. Doesn't help
Yeah.
that he's on a team filled with guards.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. He's a 6'9" forward, but they make him play like almost center sometimes. It's not great for Matas. And then Brock is the last one. I think Brock had Giannis, and obviously we touched on that. Again, we both had Rookie of the Year to be Depoy. JB Bickerstaff, though, Brock was onto some because he is currently the favorite to win Coach of the Year. But maybe Joe Mazzulla sneaks in.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like if the Celtics finish in the top 2, I actually think Joe Mazzulla will probably end up winning it.
The one that doesn't make sense to me is Mitch Johnson, the coach of the Spurs. He's like way down here in the odds, but the Spurs are like on pace going to win like 60 games this year. And he's not even in the top.
The Coach of the Year award is weird because I feel like everybody puts into consideration their expectations, and a lot of people had expectations for the Spurs to be really good this year. And that, yes, people had expectations of the Pistons being good, but I don't think many of them had them being this good in terms of standings.
Just change it to like comeback team of the year or something like that.
Yeah. You beat our expectations, Coach of the Year award. Presented by FanDuel over under season predictions.
Again, use 515. I'm just kidding. Sorry. That joke will die right now. For sixth man of the year, you had Naz Reid, who I think right now is the favorite.
Naz Reid.
I'm going to double check. Yeah, he is the favorite. So Brock right now has got potentially 4 of the award winners, correct? Which would be pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And then for most improved, I don't see Benedict Mathurin on here. So.
I don't think there's going to be.
Hey, he's been going off for the Clippers though.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Oh yeah, that graphic's outdated. Well, not outdated because it's a preseason thing, but like I forgot about that. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I can't believe they got rid of him.
Yeah, I just thought since we got 15, maybe 20 games left in the season, I figured it'd be a good time to touch on that kind of stuff, especially with us talking about who's eligible and ineligible for awards this year. So
yeah. We'll probably be back next week, if not hopefully a week after that, to talk more NBA hoops. Do you guys have a quick like hot take or something like that you want to talk about heading into the next stretch of games, or just current state of the NBA?
Not too much. You kind of put me on the spot here. Nothing that I can immediately think of off the top of my head, but yeah, I don't know. I'm sure Hunter's got something cooked up his sleeve.
He wants to talk more about. Thank you, Adam.
No. I think the only one I think if everyone were to look at like the last couple weeks at least, you know, if there was to be a shakeup anywhere potentially in your Eastern Conference standings, the post Trae Young Atlanta Hawks could find their way out of the play-in. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Playing some of the best ball in the NBA lately.
Hey, Trae Young got thrown out for not even playing.
Trae Young did get ejected before playing a single minute. Crazy.
This offseason might be not necessarily.
Shams. Sorry. I said, okay, Shams. You remember last year's like, oh, this could be the busiest offseason ever.
No, like, I don't think this will be busy. I don't think there will be many moves.
Duncan Robinson to the Pistons was the biggest move of the offseason. Like,
I remember that. That was some BS. But like, I don't think it's necessarily the quantity of moves that will be made. I think terms of like headlines, the quality of names will be the big one. because I feel like there are some teams, like especially in the Eastern Conference, the teams that aren't in the playoffs right now. Pacers are going to get Halliburton back next year. I feel like they do need to make another move before they can really potentially get back to contending. The Wizards, I mean, they've kind of laid the groundwork for a push in the next year or so, depending on health and safety of their players. Milwaukee's always going to be in the conversation for pretty much any move in the next 30 years. Hopefully though, I truly hope that they do something in terms of like making a trade that would better their team while keeping Giannis, find someone to pair up with him. And then you got Brooklyn and Chicago kind of sitting there. But and then there's teams in the Western Conference too. Like Memphis, I feel like they have a lot of question marks. Dallas has a lot of question marks. Dallas is a team I'm really looking forward to watch this offseason because they are you got a very young star on your roster, and let's see what they could potentially do in the offseason, working things around. I mean, heck, especially if Mark Cuban finds a way to get back ownership, because it sounds like he's tried to find a way back into the ownership game of the Mavericks, which, do you know how bad of a job you have to be doing if the guy that sold you the team is like, nah, give it, you know what? Nah, I'll give you more money than what you gave me. Just give me the team back because what you're doing is terrible.
It's pretty brutal.
I guess I do have one hot take that I'll leave you guys on. Having the first overall pick this year, this isn't really going to make sense when I first say it, but trust me, when I explain it, it might. I would rather have the first overall pick in like an Anthony Bennett draft, just on the sheer fact there are 4 really good players. And if you're wrong with the first pick, let's say it's Darren Peterson, and he turns out to be a bust, like his work ethic isn't there, he misses a lot of games, and you pass on Boozer, DeBonsta, and Cale Wilson, that's going to get a GM and a coach fired. So just because, let's say, like the Kings might get the first pick, the Kings aren't guaranteed to nail that pick. So having the first pick could potentially get someone fired this offseason.
You almost benefit from getting the second pick.
Exactly. So
you get a better feel for what people are expecting. I mean, I get real quick. You guys don't have to, if you don't have an idea, don't feel free not to. If you're starting so you're an expansion team and you were given the first overall pick this year, who would you take?
Probably DeBonsta or DeBansta. I don't know how you say his last name. And
I've pronounced it 50 different ways in the last 2 weeks. So
just because the way the NBA
He'll be the honest of the draft class for the name.
Yeah. Just because the way the NBA is going, it's like these athletic wings that can handle the ball, that can score at will. And not that like Boozer isn't like an outdated player, because Boozer's going to be a monster in the NBA. It's just, I don't know. I think the NBA is gearing towards like the wings. Like, look at the Celtics right now. The Celtics are one of the hottest teams in the NBA because they have 2 amazing wings.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, Boozer has a lot of similar tendencies to Jabari Parker. Granted, Jabari Parker could not stay healthy to save his life.
No.
But also the thing that I'm concerned about is Boozer hasn't really been able to show that he has a consistent, he can shoot from 15 feet, but he doesn't necessarily off the dribble consistently, or doesn't necessarily have an unbelievable perimeter game, it seems like. So that's something I'm interested to see him develop. But AJ, I feel like, is the day one ready to go for sure. As close to a sure thing I've seen in terms of like a college one and done guy in a while. Also, if you haven't watched BYU, definitely consider watching them if you're an NBA fan, because they run an NBA style team. Like they run an NBA style offense and defense, a lot of isolation ball with AJ. And so if you're someone whose team may be drafting him this offseason and you're wanting to see what you're potentially getting, this March is going to be a great one for you for sure. Hunter, do you have a pick? Are you kind of on the same boat with AJ?
Give me Joshua Jefferson of Iowa State University.
If you, not counting Saturday, have you watched the? Okay.
We'll talk about that.
The 3 games before that didn't count.
No.
Those were just exhibition games.
No.
Okay.
They kept score.
Oh yeah.
I think I don't know. I think I still might lean Darren Peterson, but hey, both him and AJ are pulling the same thing Cooper Flagg did last year, and they're like, oh man, might just stay 4 years. Who knows? Who knows? Might stay an extra year.
You know what? That might be a big reason why the lottery is the lottery. If you know who's going to be the first, I guess. Well, but you could also you could remove yourself from the lottery, from the draft, though. I'm going to do some research to figure out why the lottery became a thing.
Probably was just for tanking. To be honest, they're probably like, let's stop tanking, and then team still tanks because it's almost like when you're not good, you want to get a good draft pick or something. It's almost like that's a guarantee. You know what we should do? All draftees, free agents, teams with the most money.
God. You want to kill the small markets?
Why not?
You want to kill small markets? Giannis would request a trade the next day if that happened.
Kevin Durant might have tweeted about it, but you know what? I am an NBA fan, and I do hate the NBA, but I don't think it's weird. Unrelated to basketball play. It's everything else.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Exactly.
All right, boys. That was a good episode. We'll definitely have to keep this going here as we get closer to the playoffs. I'm excited for the playoffs this year. Obviously, now I have a little more hope heading into the playoffs than what I had back in November. Still can't believe that that's even a conversation right now of the Celtics being a top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. But for Dawson Livingston and Hunter Rose, I'm Brock Bierman. We'll be back next week. Make sure to listen to all of our podcasts. We'll have a Between the Hashes podcast up later this week. We might have some social media clips from this podcast. I'm not sure. But for sure, follow us on social media at 515 Podcast for all of our short videos of the podcast, as well as graphics that we put together. But again, for all of us, thank you for your support, and we will see you next week.